Okay, welcome back to the Arcadian podcast. It's episode number 13, and today is Saturday, April 20th, 2019. My name is Matt Franceschi, and joining me today I have Adam Wolf, Ben Bachman, and Dave Mead. Trending news today, we have a wide range of stories, actually. So we're going to start off with the Call of Duty Endowment Fund placing 54,000 veterans into high-paying jobs, a little bit of a feel-good story. Then we're going to jump down to the Apex Legends patch 1.1 update that was wiping players' complete progress on their accounts for a while. They had fixed this like pretty soonish, but I want to have like an overall conversation about why Apex has these huge problems and they're kind of like sheltered from criticism when other games have been like completely hammered by everyone in the community for the past few months. After that, we're going to jump to Dave to get his expertise on the upcoming WoW expansion, or not expansion, patch 8.2. And then after that, we're going to wrap up with Yu-Gi-Oh! Players being banned from tournaments for being too smelly, which I kind of can't wait to talk about. But the main topic today, more importantly, is going to be the recent review bombs on Steam. After Borderlands 3 was announced to launch exclusively on the Epic Store for the first 6 months of its release. So the overall story here, within 24 hours of this Epic Store announcement, Borderlands 2 on Steam received 1,600 negative reviews, Borderlands the pre-sequel received 400, and Borderlands Game of the Year Edition received 300. So that's 2,300 total within 24 hours. It's just crazy. I can't believe it happens. I mean, I know that review bombs are an issue, but this is just really strange. These games aren't Borderlands 3. I mean, I know that it's the same developer, it's the same franchise, but still, like, why ruin reviews for these games if you're just mad at this new release? Especially like because you would have to think like if these players have the games and they're reviewing them and they have an opinion on this, then they probably liked the earlier Borderlands games, right? Like they were probably fans of the series, so why tarnish their reputation over this? Seems a little bit not right to me. But we talked in a pretty good amount of length about Steam rolling out this policy of removing these off-topic review bombs from a game's overall score. I think 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. I think we had like a 10-minute conversation about this, and this is a perfect example of why they put this policy in place to defend against things like this. I'm not saying that I agree with it. I think that me personally, I'm always going to side more on the free speech side of this argument and saying that they shouldn't censor any review bombs, even if it is completely off topic like this. I don't know. How do you guys feel about, like the Steam fanboys reaction going after Borderlands? And has your opinion on the Steam review bomb policy changed at all by this news?
Mine definitely has. I like Steam more. There's no really any reason other than just I've used it for a very long time and all my games are on there. Which is, I think, a lot of that's how a lot of the people think about it is, they've used it for such a long period of time, and like, you get this like intimate feeling, and you really shouldn't, because what Epic's trying to do is positive for the industry, is for to get more money into the hands of developers. So initially when I had heard this, I didn't like Epic. I didn't like the exclusivity. But after I thought about it, and it is going to be better for developers, and I've reached a point where it's like, okay, they're here, and I'm still mostly going to use Steam, but if they really have a game that I want to play, I'm probably going to download Epic at some point and play it. But at the same time, I don't know. I can't really pinpoint. I think it's just that, it's all wrapped in with like not the free speech, but it's again, the exclusivity thing is kind of like, for some reason deep down I don't like it, right? But I can't pinpoint why I don't. It's not connected with my relationship with Steam, where I really like Steam and shit. It's just something like deep down inside of me is like, I don't like that, but I understand that it's necessary, and I'm happy that it's happening.
I don't know. So you say that like that you don't know why you don't like it, and I feel like that's the exclusivity part of it, and I feel like that's how a lot of people are too. And even
I was thinking, not to butt in, but I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, looking back, all right. So this was a while, not a while ago, not that long ago at all. But there's still like review bomb, obvious reviews on Borderlands 2, even that I'm looking at that are like, oh, this is like the greatest franchise, greatest games ever, and all this jazz. But like, Borderlands 3 is unfortunately going to be unplayable because it'll be on Epic Store for 6 months, and I can't wrap my head around it, and I don't think I ever will, because Borderlands is a decent franchise. The first game I really enjoyed it, but by the second one it just felt like a total like fetch quest, follow the pointer.
Yep.
They're good games, like they're fine. The trope at the time when it came out, like the post-apocalyptic thing, it wasn't overused at that point, and really I couldn't care less about Borderlands 3 is what I'm saying, and I'm all for, I guess, the Epic Game Store just competing in the marketplace. I don't see that being an issue, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is that I don't think anybody really understands why they don't like this at all. And I see people try to explain it, and no one's convincing me of it. I don't. If you could, I don't know. You said you couldn't, but if somebody could try to.
I mean, I feel the same way, and I really do want to. I want to talk about the Epic Game Store and the hate for the Epic Game Store, like in a few minutes here, like very detailed, because we've hit it on a couple times, and I want to have like a really large conversation surrounding it so that we can kind of talk through it and like see like what our actual true feelings are about it, like as we go through the points. Yeah. But really, like before we do that, I really want to hit like the off-topic review bomb policy, because and why these people, I know why the people are giving the bad reviews are wrapped in with their hate for Epic, but I really want to talk about the review policy and whether or not you guys see value in Steam removing these review bombs as a policy, or if you see a problem with it.
Yeah, I kind of let us off towards our second topic there off the beginning, because that's what I want.
It's all gonna be wrapped together, so it's fine.
Yeah, and but I do have a lot on this as well, though. So I think the main thing is like, what are the penalties for users who are repeat offenders of this? And I just threw this together in my mind, like, how are you going to penalize them? Like, if you're going to do it broadly, and then you can't distinguish like genuine reviews from potentially someone trolling or just being toxic and blatantly trying to sabotage the fucking reviews. Like, if you can't distinguish, then how are they going to do it? I think that they have to implement something that penalizes repeat offenders, or someone who's blatantly on there just like, fuck Epic. It's like, take that off. You can take that off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's obviously just someone who's spiteful, and it doesn't have any like critiques about the game or want to give a good review to boost its, popularity or whatever. But then I thought about that, and I went, well, that might be much too burdensome to implement a system like that. Like I don't know if they're that committed to it that they would want to implement something where you penalize people. They're taking off reviews for a month. You can't make a review for a month. That could be a penalty. Or if you're a repeat offender and you've been doing it, and it's blatant. You're making multiple reviews that are just stupid.
I'm not so sure that they're really interested in like penalizing people for it. I think it's more just for like the that like recent review, all reviews thing, that general consensus on a video game. It does kind of, I honestly look at, that's one of the first things I look at on on the store page for any game is what people are saying about it right now. Gives you a good idea of like patches and things like that. But if people are going to review bomb it like that, obviously it's going to mess with that score, which really doesn't make a lot of sense. We all understand that people are upset about Epic Game Store and Borderlands 3 being exclusive, but really all this does is hurt anybody who wants to go back and buy Borderlands 2. They're going to look at it and maybe just see that and be like, well, is this a shitty game or not? Like, what the hell's going on here? All the reviews are negative for it. it's going to hurt Steam too in the long run if everybody, really cares about Steam that much. It's that important to them, and that the Borderlands franchise is that important to them that everybody better play this damn thing and not buy it on the Epic Game Store. You're just hurting Steam with it.
Yeah.
I agree. They need to get rid of the reviews, and they did. And you can see it's like asterisks, like, hey, there was some brigading going on here with the reviews. Like, take this with a grain of salt, maybe when you're looking through these things.
Yeah, I think that this brings up a larger point, even about, and we've talked about this like very briefly before, but like about how people buy their games. Like, since the market is so fleshed out now, and you can really play like anything and put your time into anything, and you're probably going to have like, some amount of fun or some amount of entertainment. Like, I guess we can just talk personally. Like, do you, like, whenever you're buying a product, whether it's games or anything, do you look at who's making it? Like, do you care? Like, if they're doing something like publicly or politically or something, and you know of it, and even if you like their product, will you not buy it and buy a competitor's or something? Or will you not experience their movie or their game because you don't like that company? Like, does it seem like people are shifting more towards that line of thinking?
I definitely am. Yeah.
You definitely are.
Oh yeah.
Politically,
sure.
You're saying if they have a. Oh, you're saying to not.
I'm saying I won't buy something from a certain company if I don't like agree with.
They're like trying to like moral
the older I get,
posture you or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I'm totally about that. I'll definitely. I think you vote with your wallet nowadays, and I think that's one of the most important things. Like in today's society, if you support something, like put your money towards it. If you don't support something, just don't put your money towards it. You don't need to go cry and rant on the internet, I guess. Mess up somebody else's impersonation, or not impersonation, but mess up somebody else's I guess outlook on what the Borderlands franchise is all about in this point.
Yeah, don't impose on other people, right? That's what I'm all about. I think that's a second thought for me. First and foremost for me is quality of game. What it has to offer. That's all I care about, really. And then second is what you're saying, like, if they have like some shit in the game that's like catering or pandering to particular type of people, that's like, I don't really care, stop doing this. That's just like a second thought to me. First is like, if I really like your game, I'm going to put up with those things in it, but I haven't really seen anything that's like, so you guys might have some examples, but it's like so bad that it's really going to turn you off from the game. It's mostly just if I like it, then I'm going to play it if it has cool, interesting things going on with it.
So you're mostly saying like just so like from outside perspective, so like Borderlands, whether they exclusively sold on like the Epic Game Store or like like no name game store that you've never heard of, and then anywhere else, you'd still buy it.
Let's put it into something that's more personal with me. If Final Fantasy VII Remake was exclusively on Epic Store or on the Epic Game Store, I'm gonna get on the Epic Game Store and buy the shit.
Yeah,
because I want to play that. That's a childhood game. I'm gonna play that. So somebody in somebody else's shoes, they may have that perspective from Borderlands. They may be passionate about Borderlands. They really like it. They may have loved 1 and 2, and they're gonna go over to Epic Game Stores. And I think a lot of people are doing that. I think that the Steam outrage is a minority, a very loud minority of people who are very active, and that are just troll.
Yeah, like these 2,000 people that left these bombs. I mean, okay, so I think just like looking back at what we just talked about, like it seems like these people are like for some reason like really passionate about Steam. I mean, they have to be, right? Because like why would you like waste your time doing all this and like getting in this outrage? Because this is only something that you would do if you really cared about something. And like I mean I just can't see like really caring about a platform. Like,
yeah, right. Well, like
do anything for anybody.
They don't do anything. Yeah, they don't do anything for you. What do you benefit from by supporting them like that? It's not like they make the fucking games or anything. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's how I feel too, Dave. I mean, like the last time they made a game was what, like 18 years ago?
They have some smaller games out there.
By like being a diehard supporter of like of Steam, like their platform, like what does that get you?
I don't know. I don't know either.
Like it's not like they make better, like they give you something for it. You know what I mean? It's not like if you're a fan of like a video game company and that makes video games, like yeah, like obviously they make video games like tailored towards the fans, right? But I guess I just don't understand what you get from, from Steam support. You know what I mean? I just
Yeah,
don't.
well,
I just
wouldn't
don't get
if
it.
you're a
What do
fan
they-
if you're a fan of the Borderlands franchise, wouldn't the logical thing be that you would rather support them in moving to the Epic Store and hope that they
Yeah.
had success and hope that them moving there and them getting the better cut was a profitable thing for that company, so they could continue to profit on making games that you like? Wouldn't that be like the logical ends to them moving?
Yeah,
You would think.
yeah.
I
Well,
just feel like people just like, you know what I mean? Like you get so like engulfed in something and support something so much,
Yeah.
you just like do it blindly without like realizing like, the circumstances behind it. You're just, you know what I mean? You're just
Yeah, I
like
think you're-
blindly
yeah,
like
I think
about it
you're
and
right.
like you don't really know what you're getting out of it or what it's good for. You're just doing it because just out of like blind faith or blind passion or whatever you want to call it.
Oh yeah, that's I think that's the main driver here. There's other examples like people switching from Apple to Android phones. You know how fucking much they bitch. It's usually like a 2 week to a month span that they're just bitching about how different it is. They hate it, and then they're like, "Oh, I got used to it. Oh, it has new, different things that." But like people get used to things. It's like switching from like a Windows to Mac. You know what I mean? Like people, how that bad. I would hate that. I'd be like, fuck this. Like I do not.
Apple's built like a cult following almost.
Yeah.
Like,
Those people
that really
probably
like
wouldn't
Apple,
do it.
They're like nuts. I mean,
they probably wouldn't do it, dude.
I mean, I'm like a mix of everything. I have a MacBook Pro, I have a Samsung Galaxy phone, and I obviously have like my PC that I game on. So I'm like all over the place. But
Very evil.
It's like the Apple people. It's like, yeah, if you take like their blue text messages away, you'd think like the world is gonna end, and it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything for you today.
Yeah, that's from your perspective.
That software, I think it's the correct perspective.
Oh no, I agree with you. It's better to be able to adapt to different situations.
It's too much of a like menial thing to be worried about, I think.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, man, there would be things that would bother you that if you're used to something and you think that it's right, but something different comes along and it changes everything, or it doesn't. It just changes the look of it. Say, just like the Epic Store, it's probably just the look that's different, really, and that it would bother you. There is things in life that you can
it would tick me off for like 3 minutes, and then I'd be like, oh wait, like this doesn't matter actually.
Right. So you're a more reasonable person.
I'd probably just let it go, right? Because it's just like, again, like it's just like a software or platform.
Right. But
Strange.
people who aren't as mindful as you will say, you're so sagely, Matt.
I've been called that a couple times.
But people who have been using this for years, I mean, the Steam, I mean, they get like they have this like connection with it. Parentheses. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. I like I said, if something popped up on Epic Game Store that like I was really gung ho about, I would be on there, man. I'd get it in a second. But really nothing, other than Metro Exodus, which I'm gonna play eventually. Like that's the only one for me.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to go back to what Dave said there, that it almost like, what does being a fanboy for Steam like really get you? Like, what are they doing for you? And I think that's probably a really large misconception that people may have, like what exactly Steam is and does. Like I see like comments to the Borderlands reviews and like people trying to justify, why Steam's better than Epic Games and like all the great things Steam does. But I feel like it's just really super lackluster. People try to make arguments for like, oh, Steam has like the mod community and stuff. But honestly, I mean, if you're really into modding video games, there's like the Nexus mods and stuff like that, better resources out there. Steam has like a really almost like patchwork thrown together kind of service for that. They try to say that like the online multiplayer and stuff, the service there, like it being able to play with your friends. Steam doesn't really, they give you, I guess, one extra avenue, like your friends list on Steam to play with somebody, but it's not like they run servers for games or something like that. I don't think people remember like back in the day where you could have a Steam game, you know, it's online, Steam's online. You would figure the multiplayer would, you know, just be like dedicated servers like that where you'd have to go through like the Hitachi bullshit and make your own server to play online and things like that. Like Steam isn't like this super great thing, or they're really a storefront with honestly a little bit of fluff with the like the shitty streaming service. Who watches fucking people play games on Steam through their stream? I didn't even know it was a thing until like I was browsing through
People
it
have
one
watched
day
me before.
on Steam. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe you're like your immediate friends.
Yeah.
They wanted to see a game or something, but like I don't know if anybody's like getting big, you know, from their Steam.
Well,
no,
let's-
like Twitch. There's other avenues. It's just
Yeah,
it's not the end all be all is what I'm getting at.
I mean, you're absolutely right, but let's jump into the actual discussion here, like of the two storefronts, and talk about the difference between the two. Really, like I think we're gonna focus on Epic because like they're the ones that get all the flack. And I think maybe just draw a line in the sand and like just see where the four of us stand on it and like what our feelings are. And I think that we're gonna have like a lot of similar feelings. We might differ, like, you know, on a few different like smaller topics, but you know, we've had conversations about it in the past, and I feel like we understand the battle between the two a little bit more. I think now, like we've been seeing it play out for like months, and I think that we're starting to see like what population of people like what, and like what the two's long-term visions are. And also like, you know, the battle like isn't really going away. I don't think. I feel like it's getting worse. It's just gonna keep like escalating, I think. So I think exclusivity is probably the main issue. At least that's what I've been seeing. And I keep seeing this being said that it's anti-consumer over and over and over. I feel like it is like a marketing topic paid for by Steam. I see it so much. Honestly, like this guy on Twitter like got me with it. Like he tried telling me he's anti-consumer, like this complete buffoon. I had to tell him he was an idiot. Like I don't understand where this is coming from. Like, is it really anti-consumer to have a game on just your store? Like, you know, are all products like always sold everywhere? Like in the realm, like is there some unwritten rule that like games are guaranteed to be available to you like on any platform that you want all the time? Because I don't know of like any games that are available like on any platform that you want now. Like I just don't. I really just don't get it. It's not anti-consumer to make somebody download another platform. It takes 2 minutes.
Right. It's not like they're like, oh, if you want to play my game, we're only selling it here. You have to pay $800 for it. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not like they're doing that. You're not like being price gouged or anything. You're just forced to use a different like medium to consume it.
I'm with you guys 100%. But it is anti-consumer to the people who have the stubborn mindset that they're not going to get on Epic Steam Store. It's as anti-consumer as it gets because they can't get it on Steam. But they're in a mindset that isn't correct, in my opinion, and it sounds like your guys' opinion as well. So that's where they're coming from. That's where this guy says anti-consumer. Him as a consumer, he's not getting on Epic. It's anti-consumer. So
it's crazy, man.
I mean, that's not Epic being anti-consumer. That's him being anti-Epic.
Yeah,
right. No, but
yeah,
from
100%.
their perspective, the hard-headed perspective, it is anti-consumer. But it's not in reality. But in his mind, it is.
The issue I'm having, you know, like Dave said, you know, it's not like they're charging more for the game. You know, it's going to be exactly the same cost, whether it would have been on Steam or on Epic or whatever. If you're gonna like die on that hill of like anti-consumer, that this is anti-consumer. What's anti-consumer is the fucking DLCs and stuff like that. And if you're not, you're gonna support.
Yeah, I agree.
You're gonna say you're gonna support Borderlands as a franchise. Go take a look at the number of DLC that they have, and it's not just all like optional cosmetic stuff. Like some of it is like actual like gameplay oriented things like to unlock. That's the point that's really going to kill me. That people are going to go out of their way to throw a term like that, anti-consumer, when it's really probably one of the most pro-consumer things out there, having another game store.
Yeah, free market
Yeah,
wise.
that's what that's actually like my larger point. Is like, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, in the long run, isn't the competition between Epic and Steam actually pro-consumer? Because the end goal is supposedly to be better cuts for developers. Like, wouldn't either, you know, in this push and pull between pricing, aren't the two eventual outcomes either that Epic wins outright and that the developer cut stays the 8812, or that Steam has to drop theirs down to something more comparable to 8812 and the developers win anyway? So like, isn't that a good thing for consumers at the end of the day?
I would say
am I
so.
not
And
thinking about
like,
that right?
I mean, think about anything though. Anytime there's competition, like, you know what I mean, in the market, when is that ever bad for consumers?
Yeah.
How is that ever bad for consumers?
I don't think it
How,
can,
like, how
I don't
can,
think
how
it
can
can
it
be.
No.
It can't be bad? How could it be? How
Yeah.
can more options and more avenues and people everybody wants your money, so now you have people competing to like do things better in order to earn your money, so you're getting a better product. Like, why would that be bad? I can't think of one reason why it would be bad. I can't think, literally not one.
It isn't. I think just the reality of the situation is we're butting heads with people who are stubborn and hard-headed, and it hurts. it's leaving some little bumps on our heads here. But yeah, that's the reality of the situation. If people would have a better understanding of why this is good and would open up to that, and I'm not saying open up and like download Epic, I'm saying just realize why it's good and stay on Steam. You know, be realistic here.
Yeah, I don't think anybody, I don't think any of us are like trying to convert people or anything like that. I'm really not anti-Steam, and I think like really, what this will do is, you know, when I look at Steam and compare, the Epic Game Store is so small right now. That's probably the biggest thing that sticks out to me, that they just don't have very many games on there. But if we could get to the point to where, you know, Epic could rival Steam, and Steam really is like the best place for like those big like seasonal sales and stuff like that. You know, I feel like that's when a lot of us buy a lot of video games, when, you know, everything's like huge sales. You have another avenue to do that at if Epic gets big and can kind of rival them on like seasonal sales and stuff like that. I mean, kind of living the dream right there. Be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Steam, I mean, Epic may eventually, this may, you know, eventually happen, but Steam has a lot of indie games and a lot of like small developer, and that's just because they've been on, you know, they've been this huge platform for so long that they just consumed all these very small developers and indie developers and stuff. But that's another thing, is like, come on, there's so many fucking games on Steam.
Like, for me,
go ahead, Dave.
For me, like the biggest point with all that is like, you'll just never convince me that more competition isn't good for the consumer.
Yeah.
And good for the industry as a whole, as far as you getting a better product or a better game or a better experience or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's just a fact, man.
And they'll get more games as Epic is used more and they get more traffic. More games will just go over there naturally.
Yeah,
the market's gonna grow. But another claim that I see like that is against Epic, I don't want to start sounding like I'm like an Epic fanboy, because I'm not. I just want the competition. But is that they're like a form of spyware, and that like Tencent is stealing your information. Like, and I've since seen this like kind of debunked by people and saying like, no, this isn't spyware. But like, did you guys see this at all? Because I saw it for like a couple weeks and I was like, Epic and Tencent are like huge companies. Like, this platform isn't like just some form of like shitty spyware. Like, I don't understand like where this came from.
Yeah. And
I don't know, it's kind of strange.
Yeah, it was really like, it was the weirdest argument. Like, I don't know who made it up, but
I think I know where it came from. So we have these people who feel very passionately about Steam, and then as Americans in general, we have this misconception, and it is true in some ways, but there's this big misconception that, you know, like, Russia's this huge evil, country that, they probably have some practices that I wouldn't agree with, but generally, they're not evil. They're, they're not Soviets anymore, right? They're not. And the Chinese are these, evil. They have these, malevolent things that they want to do to Americans. They'll get in here, they'll spy on you, they're going to take your information.
Yeah, they're doing it through Fortnite in the Epic Games Store.
Yeah, exactly.
They've got us. Yeah,
it's really, in my mind, it's conspiracy theories about these countries coupled with hard-headed, people we're just talking about extensively, the Steam fanboys. So those coupled together have led to this conspiracy theory. The Tencent. Oh no! Don't get on there. They'll get your information. They'll be tracking you when you go somewhere.
That's what it seemed like to me too. It was it was so asinine that I couldn't even follow like the thought process behind it.
Right.
Really, I feel like this really isn't that far fetched. Don't people know that Tencent's a huge company, but like Google, like don't they? In YouTube, like selling your information and stuff like they do it. I don't see why Tencent wouldn't want to do that.
I think
the reason it's necessarily a bad thing.
The reason why I thought it was asinine is because like they were already like throwing everything at Epic, and then this came out as like the icing on the cake, and I was like, really, like this is pathetic.
Yeah,
like this is the thing that you're gonna fall back on now that like everybody knows that your anti-consumer bullshit isn't true. Like now we're gonna talk about it being spyware. Like come on, I think that's like where it hit me, like in the trending news.
That's a good point. I guess you should just stay off the internet in general if you're that concerned about it.
But it seems like the four of us are actually like pretty much on the same page here. Which is probably good. I think that means that we're probably like all thinking about it fairly correctly, because I think if we were way off, like we might know, or we're just in a huge bubble and we're actually just like complete buffoons. But I think that we're right. I think that the competition's great. Is there anything else that anybody wants to point out about like Epic specifically, or like just like the Epic Steam thing, just before we move down to trending and kind of put this in our rear view for a while?
I had a thought about that exclusivity thing. We were just talking about other products, in their availability, accessibility, that kind of thing. It's not like, when you compare it to something else, it's like only sold at like Walmart or Target or something like that, where that might actually affect you if you don't have like a Walmart or Target in your town, as hard as that might be to believe. Like it's still the internet, it's not like it's out of your reach to go to the Epic Games Store. Like it's just another thing I wanted to throw out there. We're all in the same marketplace here, and we all have like equal at least in America here, we're not limited by that like kind of censorship on the internet, which is nice. But
and like if you think about it too, like games like there's always been games that have been exclusive since like forever. Right? Like if you want to play fucking Blizzard games, you have to download Battle.net. You can't just download them anywhere.
Yep.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's not like it's some fucking new thing and like it's a big, you know what I mean? It's just not that big of a deal. It's never really impacted anything.
Yeah, and that's really true. I mean, console games were exclusive. You know what I mean? There are some console games.
You know what I mean? It's something that's always been there.
You should be used to it.
It's something that's always been there and never really had that big of an impact on anything, as far as I'm concerned. And so I don't know why like it's magically a big deal now. It's something that's always been there, and it's never been that issue.
I mean, just like in all walks of life, like I can't go to the Volkswagen dealer and ask for a Tesla. Like, I don't feel like that's anti-consumer. There's different companies. Like, I can't like go on the Nike website and like try to buy Adidas shoes. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's a little bit different because like these are marketplaces and those are like the actual company's websites. But like, I think it's like a similar point.
Yeah. I think that now that I'm really thinking about it, it's really a good thing that Epic has done this, and I think it was imperative because Steam needed a competitor, right? Somebody needed to do it eventually. Otherwise, they just would have got so big that no one would have been able to compete.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that this happened. And also, the other reason that I think it's important is because we're dealing with, and I think it's gonna get crazy, guys. We're getting diverse gamers right? Traditionally, we
So I'm
have
told,
people. Yeah, we're getting diverse gamers who are, just playing a little bit. Typically we had our gamers who, you came home after work and you played fucking video games for 6 hours, right? And you're passionate about it. You play it all the goddamn time. But now that's changing. More of the population is accepting video games as a way to spend your time and get your entertainment. And it's really good that we're having other people get into the market and make it more competitive. So yeah, I'm losing my train of thought, but it's really good. But I'm still a Steam boy. I'm not gonna download Epic unless fucking the Final Fantasy 7 remake is exclusive.
I'll probably get it for Metro Exodus. Actually, I got Metro for free with my new graphics card, so I mean, I'm not gonna not play it.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the other things I just want to say, like, other companies are obviously already starting to like circumvent, Steam in general. Like EA being one of the big culprits there with the EA Origins and things like that. Granted, they only sell, their own like published games.
Yeah.
But I mean, I hate that stuff. And if you're gonna rag on, the Epic Game Store that's gonna try and carry all games, maybe these guys get big enough that you phase out like the EA Origins and stuff like that. I doubt that'll ever happen, but I wish it would. I'm annoyed having an extra storefront. I'd rather just have one place to go for everything.
Adam, when Division 2 came out, they released it on Origin and Epic, but not Steam. And the reason they did that was because they had said that, I mean, obviously they want it on Origin because they take all the money for that. I mean, why wouldn't they put it on their own fucking platform? That'd be idiots. But I mean, they released it on Epic. I'm sure that Epic probably paid them a little bit or something, or there was some sort of agreement. Like, I don't want to be that naive, but I think that like they also see that like they're still gonna make the 88% on it, and like it's good for the marketplace. So why not? Why not put it on both? It gives the game more exposure.
I like that you. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah,
that's such a big point to just kind of phase these things out. If people are mad about extra, storefronts, and you're not gonna like rag on EA and what like the Activision one with Blizzard and stuff like that, but you're gonna try and crucify the Epic Games Store. I just feel like it's silly.
Yeah, I agree.
It's crucifixion on Easter weekend,
right on Holy Saturday.
Yeah, there you go. Woof, jeez. Gonna have the Bible thumpers pissed.
Yeah, actually, we're not gonna be able to publish this now. Yeah. Let's jump down to trending and start off with this first story. Our first feel-good story of the 13 episodes. So the Call of Duty Endowment Fund has placed 54,000 veterans into high-paying jobs. 10,686 last year in 2018 alone. That's a huge number. It's awesome. So the endowment fund began in 2009 and is funded either by individuals directly donating to the endowment fund or by people purchasing the Call of Duty games. Like they take a cut of that and put it into the fund, which is it's so cool. Yeah. Since 2009, they've donated $36 million to select organizations that help place veterans into these good jobs. And these aren't just like bullshit jobs, and it doesn't seem like it's just some kind of like marketing tactic to me. I mean, I'm sure there's an element of that to it, but at the end of the day, if it works and it's helping people, then that's fine. Of these placements, 93% of these veterans were placed in full-time jobs with a starting salary of over $58,000 and boasted an 87% 6-month retention rate. I mean, like, so these are like quality jobs, and like they're not just like putting them in there and they're not working and they're getting rid of them in 3 months. Like, these are jobs that stick. Like, these are careers. I thought it was great. Like, when I saw it, it was like automatically I was like, man, I have to bring this up. Yeah, this is awesome. And my overall point on it is it's great to see a company overall, but especially in the video game industry, like making a real change, like a change that you can actually see and feel in the actual world, rather than just tweeting and virtue signaling all day and night to certain demographics about like what they actually care about when they do nothing to help people.
That's a good point.
I love this. I'm not going to talk about it too much. I just want to say that, like you said, Matt, it's really nice to see these companies giving back because they're making buku bucks. It's really nice to see them give back, especially to veterans. They go and fight these wars for the politicians or people with big money, and then they come back and they're dispossessed, it seems, and it's hard for them to transition, and for someone to stick their neck out in a way by putting money towards something like this. It's nice to see. It's compassionate, and Call of Duty's EA, right? So they're doing
That's
Activision.
Activision. Well, they're under EA now, aren't they?
No.
No, separate.
Oh, okay.
I think, what's probably clouding your judgment is just because of all the bad press that both have been getting. You're probably just blending the two together.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe. But yeah, whatever. I know they've been getting bad press, and it's nice to see them do something like this.
Yeah. Actually, did you see? Not to go on a big thing about this, but did you see like that recent story that came out about Activision Blizzard? They were something came out where like they're paying like pregnant women at Activision Blizzard like $1 or something a day if they like let them track their health progress throughout the pregnancy or something, and like share it with the organization to like let them know how the baby's doing or something. Did you read that?
No.
Did they like send somebody to go like for the ultrasounds and stuff too? They like sit in with
I don't know. It's really weird. I might actually cut this from the show just because I might actually have to save this for like another one so we can talk about it. But it was nuts. Or I might just leave it in. I don't even know if I want to talk about it like for 10 minutes. But yeah, it was like the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was like, what? Weird.
That's spooky, man.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Well, I read an article about how a lot of those there's apps now, and a lot of those watches that you wear that track your blood pressure or and heart rate and shit like that, or like steps, how many steps you've taken, or etc. Those now there's apps implemented for pregnant women to like, and they like take information from them, and it's I don't know much about it, but I was listening to it, and it's like, wow, it seems really intrusive. Like
kinda. Yeah, I mean, what are they trying to do with this? Like, make their company more appealing to pregnant women, I guess? Like, is that what you would use this data for, to try and make it better for them?
Yeah.
Some way?
That's what I think.
I don't know. It's just, no matter like how you spin it, it's just such bad press. Like, you read the headline and like everybody's gonna be like, huh?
Yeah, it just seems strange.
Yeah.
At best.
Yeah, it's because we're all traditional boys. We're not with the new age fucking.
I don't know if anybody's with that.
It's just hard to relate,
We're new half robots. We're gonna have a bunch of.
It is hard for us to relate. But
there's people out there that want to have cyborgs and like be half robot and shit. We're not with that. We're more like
like your robot brother.
Yeah, my brother. He wants to be full. His plan is full robot, but by 2030.
Yeah, well, I don't want to be that guy. Like, man, I can't understand like what it's like to be a woman and have a baby or something like that. But really, I just can't. I can't relate to how that would make you feel at your work.
I know.
Right? Like they want to track
probably
that. It's just
really
weird.
fucking weird.
I don't.
Maybe some people are all for it. I'm sure there are people that are like, yeah, it's great.
The
Chimera. That's another diaper. Or something like in the long run.
I think I had a fucking food baby last night after a Good Friday dinner.
Can we
all right, but back
that?
to we're talking about the endowment fund here.
I've got some running stats on it. I'll share it with you guys. Yeah, I think I shit it all out.
Yeah,
this
how
morning.
many steps did it take before you?
Probably let it loose
for that hatch.
Anyway, let's go to the next story. So this is going to revolve around the Apex Legends patch 1.1 update that was wiping all of the players' complete progress on their accounts. Respawn had acted really quickly and they shut the servers down and they fixed it in a few hours, which was really good. Like, I mean, kudos to them for like fixing it so fast. But I mean, that's a pretty big screw up. Like, that's pretty blatant, I think. And they've also had like a lot of like other bigger mistakes. Like, players are constantly being booted mid-game for seemingly no reason, us included. It's happened to me so many times that like I literally uninstalled the game. and got Origin off my PC because I just don't want it anymore. And then like I couldn't play the game a few like not a few days ago now, like a couple weeks ago, because my Steam profile like was linked to it or something and it like wasn't working properly. So like that's when I actually did the uninstall, because it was like, okay, I can't log in anyway, and even if I do, I get kicked out of the game in 5 minutes. So like, yeah, I think I'm done with this like piece of shit game. You know, that's kind of what it came to for me. And I think this is happening like on a pretty wide player base. But my main point here, and I hope you guys can help me figure this out, because I really don't know. Apex has had its problems, as I just outlined, and so have a lot of other games lately, like Fallout 76 and Anthem, and those games got completely hammered for their problems. And I think that they're a little bit different than Apex. I'm not saying that these are like absolutely comparable on all fronts, but like these games just get shit talked and annihilated, you know, into Kingdom Come, when like I can't find a bad word about Apex Legends. It's like Apex Legends is still like the golden child of the industry, and I don't know why. What is this, like, what's causing the double standard that I'm seeing, and does it actually exist, or am I just like honing in on these things and like I'm not seeing it clearly? And if it does exist, like, does it have something to do with Apex being you know, quote unquote free to play, even though they just made $92 million in their first month? Like, does that like bar you from any criticism because like, oh well, the game's free, so like I don't really fucking care if it works, like, because I don't have to pay for it? Like, is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, I think that your criticisms are correct, and I think that everyone, or a lot of people, think that now, because people watching the game on Twitch has dropped dramatically, and that means that people playing the game have, you know, it's dropped really dramatically.
That's a good point.
In comparison to their high points. I think they were, you know, riding the battle royale wave, you know, and they're in that gold, they're in that diamond tier with the battle royales right now. Everybody's hot on them. And really it faded away. I don't think the game is that great. I was playing it extensively for probably about 2 weeks. I tried to get on like every night and play for like 2 hours. I was doing that for like a week or two, and yeah, I now I'm at the point I still have it downloaded. Oh, first let me go back. I couldn't play the game for 2 weeks. I had to log on to a different account. On my main account, I couldn't play the game for 2 weeks.
Was it because of that Steam link or whatever?
Yeah, it was the Steam link thing.
Yeah.
So I was pissed about that. I'm like, this is just really bad, man.
I don't know.
Steam.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
Well, back to the Steam.
Yeah, I forget what it was.
But
Epic Games.
Yeah, it couldn't play it for 2 weeks, and all of it just started to get, you know, initially it was really, it felt good, fresh new battle royale. You know, it had cool, distinct differences from other battle royales that we had talked about in our other podcasts. I couldn't log into it for 2 weeks. Fuck that. And the novelty faded super quick for me. I'm basically at the point right now that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play 2, maybe 3 games, and if I'm not having like a significant amount of fun, I'm getting the fuck off it, because I'm gonna fall into a hole where I'm gonna hate myself after I get off 2 hours later.
What was that due to, Ben? Was it lack of content and lack of replayability? Because that's what I feel whenever I hop on.
I think it's a battle. Yeah, it's a battle royale. It's like there's not enough reward for your play, right? We talked about it, and
yeah,
you know, we talked about it with they need to add a ranking system or something like that where you're getting the reward. It's not enough reward to just make it to the last 3 teams or win. You know, it's like, oh yeah, that's great. That last 10 minutes.
Yep.
And the thing that got it for me, particularly with Apex Legends, is, and I find this over and over again with shooters and multiplayer shooters and battle royales, it's too fast paced for me. I like games, if I go way back, like SOCOM. It took thought. You were communicating with people. You were, you know, you were scanning an area and in on it. And then something more that's, and I don't like the Call of Duty, like, turn around, oh shit, it's like you're like a manic, or, you know, in a manic situation. Or like Rainbow Siege, which takes thought. You have to have approach, you have to have strategy.
Yeah, you feel like your moves and your decisions actually hold weight.
Yes.
In those games, I think that's why I like Halo, and we could get into this for like an hour or so. I'm probably just gonna cut this, but I think it's like to the point you brought up about ranked ladder, and it's the point that Dave brought up in our our in-depth battle royale talk, is that like Apex's version of like reward of like if you win a game, that like you're addressed like at the beginning as like being the champion or whatever of the next game. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Nobody cares. I mean, it does nothing for the player. But let's talk about. I want to just bring up like free to play games, and I think that everybody like already knows that they're kind of a joke. But like, man, it seems so scummy to me. And like, Adam, I know like we kind of had like not like an argument, but we just had like a difference in opinion on like a free to play game versus like a $60. But like these free to play games, I swear they're just doing it because like they can roll it out and like have no criticism for these, pretty bad bugs, and then they make $92 million anyway in the first month. I mean, it's like that's more than some $60 games make. It's like it's like they pulled the wool over everybody's eyes, and like nobody can figure it out. It just seems like such a bad practice to me. I don't know if you guys have any opinion on that, but I don't like it at all.
I don't think it's. I know this is where we differ. I fail to see where it's. Maybe it is a bad practice, honestly, for maybe like the overall health of the like gaming industry. It's probably not a good thing in the long run for everybody. But I just find it really hard to see the reasons why it's bad necessarily for us right now to have accessibility to a game that you may never even have thought of playing. But since it's free, a lot of other people were playing it. Sure, why the hell not? I'll give it a chance. I mean,
yeah, I mean, and I get that, and I don't even want to argue that right now. I just want to like the fact that you can be free to play and make a shitload of money. Like, companies know this. I feel like they do it on purpose, and I feel like there's like this public opinion that like the game is like, again, quote unquote free. Like when they're making money hand over fist for a product that is not as good as if it was actually like priced up front.
Right.
I think that's what makes me really mad about it, because I think they do it consciously. I think they roll it out free to play on purpose so that people like think that it's free, and they think like they're doing people a favor, so they'll like buy these skins and stuff, and they end up making more money anyway. I don't agree with it.
I don't think that it. I mean, obviously they're doing it consciously, but I don't think that it's some devious thing. I think it's a new model, and we don't like it.
I don't know. I think it's pretty devious. Like these mobile games do it too, and it seems pretty devious to me.
Well,
MOBAs do it, and we like MOBAs.
Yeah, but I mean, anything with microtransactions is kind of devious. Maybe isn't the word, but like
there's a different word for it. There's a different word.
It's there. It's strictly there for them to make money off of. It's not anything else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what all games are.
Right. I mean, right. I'm saying, but like microtransactions and stuff are specifically implemented to like increase revenue streams for a game.
It's a constant revenue, right? I mean, it's a new model, and I wish it wasn't as successful. I'm with you, Matt. I'm just being the
It's successful because they make a lot of money off it, so it's not going anywhere. Like.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have to think about this a little bit further and like really see how I feel about it. But like my initial reaction is that it just seems really underhanded to me in some fashion. I don't know. I mean, I'll have to research it a little bit more.
Well, I feel like they said it, like why you don't. I think that you don't like it is because where it stems from, with specifically mobile games, that this kind of framework for the free to play and the microtransactions, because you make a lot of money off those like whale buyers, those people that spend just insane amounts of money on them.
Yeah,
I think that's why it's kind of translating into this, where I don't like where that came from either. That mobile kind of game free to play microtransaction thing. Just
I think that was the origin.
I think that is what's tripping me up.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Generally, and
on a
they've
larger scale.
historically
just-
they've been subpar games. So
Yeah, I just get that feeling like there's somebody behind the wall there, just rubbing their hands, sneering.
Oh, absolutely.
Get the
That's how I
money.
picture it. That's how I picture it too. Because
They
they
want a
wouldn't,
skin, I'll give them a skin.
they wouldn't roll it out free to play if they didn't think they were going to make all this $90 million. Like they know, they know what it's going to bring in. I don't know. Anyway, just so I don't keep like harping on the same point. I want to talk about the new patch 8.2 that's coming out in World of Warcraft, and there was a really good article that came out regarding this new patch, and maybe I'll post this in the description just so if anybody wants to see it that they have access to it. But it seems like I think that people in the WoW community are optimistic that this new patch is going to fix some of the major problems that BFA has had since its release. But since I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm gonna relay it over to Dave. Dave, you just want to talk about like some of the finer points of 8.2, and really, I think like when you're describing like some of the big changes, like talk about like why I think that you're optimistic and why like the community in general is optimistic about the patch and what it's gonna do for the state of the game.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna hit like some like the bigger, points of like what's coming, and then we can talk about why it's good or why it's bad or why people like it or why people won't like it, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so I guess like the first big point, like big bullet point is they're changing the heart of Azeroth. Like in its current state, it's like you just power it up and then it unlocks the traits on your armor, so you can use them, right? Not really that excited. Nobody really liked it. Everybody's kind of pissed about it. It wasn't like super unique. It felt bad because you'd get a new piece of armor and you couldn't unlock the traits yet because your thing wasn't strong enough. So it's like you get a new piece of armor and you can't actually use like the cool part of the armor right away, which is kind of doesn't feel good. Like nobody likes that. But what they're doing is they're making all your traits in your Azerite armor. When you get it, you can unlock all the traits, which I think that's a really good idea. So then you don't feel like if you know what I mean, if you're not powerful enough to unlock the traits, you don't feel like you're losing power by losing traits, even though you got like a better item. If that makes sense. And now they're kind of making the Heart of Azeroth kind of like back to the Legion weapons, where like you have like a progression tree and you can power up different things, and it gives you abilities or enhances other abilities. And it's almost kind of like if you remember like the glyph system back in the older expansions, it's almost kind of like that, kind of like a talent tree. So they like they had like a live stream of it or whatever, and it kind of looked really, really similar to like the old glyphs, but they said like it was just like like the basic bare bones preview. So they said it was going to be a little bit more detailed than that. But for me, I think it's not like it's a little like of a letdown. Like you would like to see something a little bit more, but it's definitely like a step in the right direction, and it's better than what we had. Because like I think like the Legion artifact weapons, like people like that progression, and it was fun, and people enjoyed it, and they kind of like instead of just like keeping something that worked, they like ditched it and like tried to make something new that just wasn't as good and wasn't as thought out. And like they would have been better off just like leaving the old Legion artifact progression system and like the new artifact necklace or whatever you want to call it.
have both, is what you're saying.
Right, yeah. It's just I don't know, like they just like ran away from like how the Legion artifact weapon progression worked, like with the traits and everything, and like people really like that. Like if it works, like don't if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why would you waste time making a new system that isn't fun or nobody liked? When the old thing worked perfectly fine and you could introduce other things that were more pressing than to like reinvent the wheel on something else. It didn't make a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
I think that's it's a little underwhelming, but it's better than what we currently have. So I mean, I guess you'll take it, right? But another thing that's cool is like the two new zones, Najatar and Mechagon. That's really where I think they can like bring this expansion back, because like right now it feels like you're just kind of out there in the world and there's like not that much to do. There's nothing like meaningful. It's just kind of like I don't know. It doesn't feel like you're doing anything. There's nothing rewarding. But when you're adding like these new zones and they're adding all these like little like like currency systems to get things and collect things, and just like having like PvP and stuff, and like like Mechagon is kind of like new and like we didn't really know about it, but like Magitar has been like a big thing with like where the Nagas live and everything. So like it's kind of cool that they're finally visiting that, and I think like the new zones and everything might you know bring a little bit of life back into the game, because right now it's feeling pretty dead.
Yeah, I've noticed that like you and your like guild haven't really even been on lately. Just like on
Yeah, it's just
Discord.
right. It's just like a lot of people like stopped raiding and stopped logging on because there's stuff to do, but it's not like meaningful things to do. Like it doesn't feel like you're like doing something and like you're getting rewarded or like you're having fun doing it. It's just like a grind for a grind.
Yeah. Does it seem like a long time to you? Like I know that we talked about it coming out like June or July, like, and like we talked about like pre-recording how like we were at BlizzCon last year, and it seemed like from my perspective like this was going to be rolling out like beginning of the year, and now it's like not till July. Maybe they had even said that at the convention. I don't remember like if they rolled out or released it, but it just seems like it's like such a long wait for, and I guess it is a lot of content, like I'm not saying that, but it just
Right.
seems like such a long delay, and they have to know they're bleeding player base.
I definitely think they know that, but I mean it's the same thing. You can't just like rush something out to rush
Yeah.
it out, because like we already saw how that worked out.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
that's a pretty good point.
I
But
kind
it
of
just
wanted.
good.
I'm sorry. I kind of wanted to pick your brain about a couple of these things here, but I don't want to get off track with that like artifact weapon, Azerite power thing. If you don't
Oh yeah,
want to
no,
get
I'm,
back
I'm good. Good. Let it
in.
fly.
So I guess how it seemed to me, like just the progression of World of Warcraft in general, at least through the like vanilla version of the game, Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, where the advancements between the expansions and things like that back then were, like a more in-depth like talent pool to directly, increase your character's abilities, powers, that kind of thing, to make them, diverse, unique to some point. And then they really transferred or transitioned into this system in Legion where they, you know, at that point, like the town system had already been pretty dumbed down at that point, and it was kind of the increased power, like the character building was all transitioned over into like your weapon, unlocking like the traits on it and like pouring in the artifact power and things like that.
Yep.
And then they really, with this most recent expansion, doubled down on that and said like, hey, like this is it, this is going to be the future of this game, where we empower these items through the gear and not necessarily like the character himself. I just wondered if you thought that was, you think that's like a good direction? Do you think that's, it feels rewarding enough? To me personally, when I went to Legion, I didn't like that feeling that like the investment was the weapon, not the character anymore. It just felt different to me. So I just wanted
Yeah,
like your thoughts on since you're still playing.
I'm kind of torn a little bit, because one part of me is like, you know what I mean? How like you can't just keep adding new abilities and new things to your character all the time without it like just being too much shit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like there's only so many buttons that I can press on my keyboard. Like I can't just keep adding like fucking 5 new buttons every expansion. You know what I mean? Because it just gets too clunky and there's too much. But at the same time, like an expansion, there has to be like a feature or something that makes you feel more powerful.
Mhm.
And I liked it in Legion. Like I liked how the artifact weapons worked, and I think they did a good job there. But then when they tried to like replicate something like that in BFA, like with the Heart of Azeroth, it just wasn't as like good or fleshed out or rewarding as it was in Legion. And I think
Yeah.
part of it's just because like the weapon, like it's cool. Like weapons are cool, right? Weapons are obviously like way cooler than like
Yeah.
a pair of boots or something. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I think that where or like a necklace. Like who fucking cares about a
I
necklace
like
if I have a
boots.
giant?
I really
Yeah,
like boots.
you know what I mean? Like it's way cooler to have a giant ass sword than it is to fucking have a necklace around your
Yeah,
neck.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's just me personally.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's 90% of people.
And like and it was cool too, because like your weapon, like okay, you got this weapon, and like everybody's weapon had like a power. You know what I mean? Like Rage of the Sleeper for like a guardian druid, like you go fucking psycho and you do more damage, and you can't be like feared or anything. You're immune to like crowd control.
Hmm.
and then you like leech back health and stuff. Like it was cool because you had that kind of stuff. But in Legion, you just had traits that like weren't unique, and it just like made your abilities like like vanilla buffs to you, not like oh now you have more haste or now you do more damage on this. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
like as interactive. Whereas like the Legion artifact weapons would like change your rotation or like something like that, which made it feel different and new. Whereas if you don't like have things that change how you like play the game, it's just I don't know. It's just not as like fun and interactive, and it doesn't feel as rewarding.
Mm-hmm. I think that's just been the general consensus. There's excitement for a month after a release of a new expansion, and then it just I think it's over. I think they need to give up on the WoW. They were not going to until they stop making stop making
Well,
money. But
and it just seems like the way WoW goes, like it's every other expansion's good. I don't know if that's because how they split up the development teams or what,
no.
but it's like always like there's one
That's
expansion that's
weird.
kind of a dud, and then because like you know what I mean, they're always like working on 2 expansions technically at one time. Like they're all you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
there's like different development teams, and I think like however it works, like there must be like one development team that does every other one, and the other one does every other one, and so like one group is just better at putting shit together or something because it's just kind of strange that like there's like one shitty expansion and one good expansion because there's like 2 WoW teams and like they each
Yeah.
work on different things. And I think
Yeah, well, like I mean, I think the first expansion out of like, or like the first patch out of like whenever like a big new, I don't even know like what the right term is for it. Like what would you even is BFA an expansion? Like what's the right like?
yeah, it's a whole expansion. Like it's a
Okay.
whole
Yeah,
new
like
zone. And
I think like
everything, a new
whenever like I
story.
think like whenever like something that big comes out, like I think like once like a patch hits or something like right after that, I feel like it's hard to like live up to the hype of that, like because it's like so recent in memory.
Yeah,
You know that like
true.
that first team kind of gets the shaft. I feel like.
Right.
Well,
But I don't
yeah,
know. I could be wrong. I
MMOs
could
are a
be
little
wrong,
different,
but
just because like those big like the 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 updates generally bring really big like additional content, like a new raid, a new dungeon, like there was with new zones
yeah,
for this one, which is cool. But I thought it was interesting. The other thing you were saying that you felt that some of the areas, or maybe just all the areas now, just feel kind of like dead, boring, and not somewhere you really want to be exploring. And I kind of always harp back to like the glory days of World of Warcraft, like the first few expansions, where I felt like back then that the game was a little bit more sandboxy. That the story didn't it was kind of a loose framework of a story. It really wasn't hand holding you through the zones or anything like that. There was no like, hey, it's time to go here now kind of moment all the time.
Right.
Transitioning, whereas especially now that this most recent expansion is very heavily story driven, progressing through the areas with the unique story for each faction and things like that. Do you think that people would prefer, or you would prefer to go back to like a more like sandboxy kind of create your own adventure where back in the day like PvP more for like necessity, where like things like Terran Mill and stuff or that like that where people would clash, not because the game told you to or anything like that, but people kind of like found a reason to be there to fight and things like that.
Happen naturally.
More organic.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
You killed some of my guild mates. We're coming for you.
Things like
Round them up.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I definitely like the sandboxy, like things just happening. Just you know what I mean? Like things happen organically and naturally because of just how the world was back
Mhm.
then. But I think honestly, probably like I get like server sharding is like good because you know what I mean. Like it's better for like you have a better connection to the server and there's less load on the server and all that stuff. But when
Yeah.
you're like like whenever you're always sharding between different servers, you don't run into the same players anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, when you were on a server before, like, you always saw people from your server, like, you saw whatever this alliance guy, and he was always gonna be there because he was on your server, and you would see him, and you'd be like, "I remember that motherfucker, I wanna kill him."
Mm-hmm.
Now, like, you don't see that as much because of like how you get sharded to different places.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't want to be around if you were sharding all the time.
It's every fucking time.
I've been cracking up the entire. Every
It's
time
like
Dave
you
says
can't
shard, I have
even talk about WoW.
I can't hold it in, man. It just gets me going. Then I snicker, and then I hear Ben start laughing, and then I'm done. You know. It's just...
Hey, I was holding it in. Your snicker got me.
Sorry, Dave.
No, but that makes sense because that was one of the things with when I was playing Vanilla WoW, we were constantly running into people on the Alliance side because like it seemed like there was people who were leveling at the same pace as you, right? And then you would see them, and then like it was cool to see them at the end game when you were level 62, you know.
Yeah,
I know that feeling.
It's just cool to like run. You know what I mean? To like run into the same people. Like, oh, I remember that guy, or like I want to like he killed me, and now I want to kill him. Yeah, right. It's just like. I don't know. It just felt like, you know what I mean? It felt like you were like part of something where now it's just like you're just all over the place all the time.
Exactly. It kind of builds those layers that like the MMO RPG genre is kind of like missing out on nowadays, where there's obviously the game story, but then like there's the story of like your character and like who you've been running into like on your journey, that kind of thing, where it just doesn't happen anymore. It's just kind of sad. And like you said, that they're kind of having to make these like obviously inorganic ways to drive people out like into the world to actually like go out and do something instead of like everybody like you know circle jerking in the capital city
dancing around like passing potions to each other,
which is fine, but the issue is like that everybody just instantly teleports to their dungeon or battleground or anything like when they're doing it. That's the issue that I see.
I agree.
I know. It's
very good points. I never thought about it that deeply.
Are there any like newer MMOs that are on the horizon that we know of that are coming out?
Yeah, there is. I can't think of the name now.
There was one that I saw that looked okay, but I think it flopped. Blessed or something.
I think I remember hearing about that too.
You were always terrible at picking.
No, shut up.
Well, there was a few years there where we were on the like MMO RPG gamer or whatever.com where they had the lists of like MMOs, and we would just spend every other day like downloading a new MMO and trying to play it.
Yep.
And they were all shit.
Lineage 2.
That's why we still talk about WoW.
Yeah, right.
Guild Wars.
That's all anybody talks about. And I guess Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy 14 is good.
Yeah.
I heard. I mean, I think it has the same problem. Like, there's not that open world feeling. Everything is like queue up. We're gonna throw you into the scenarios or the instances, you know.
Yeah. FF Online, or what was it? Was it Fly with Friends? Do you remember what I'm talking about? Shit. Where like the big thing you did was like get a fucking broomstick and fly around on it.
I remember something like that.
It
was just bad. Was it like real like anime?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, really we actually played that for a little bit.
Is it Fly FF?
I don't know. I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to admit that we played that.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. 2004. There's a new version of it now. If anybody's interested, I'm sorry.
Let's get to the real.
Yeah, I do.
I'm real smelly part of our podcast.
Yes. Yeah, something fishy's going on at Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments recently, and it happens to be the players themselves. So Konami has just implemented a new rule that penalizes players if their clothes are dirty or bad smelling. Not the players, just their clothes. That they're not targeting the individual people. It's really funny. Obviously, like if they're making a ruling. Like actually like in their guidelines on this, like just imagine like how that fucking place smells when you walk into one of those tournaments. But I don't know if you guys have any comments on this. I mean, it's hilarious. That's why I wanted to bring it up. It's like the best timeline to be alive. But like how does like in the big picture, how do you enforce a rule like this? Because like how smelly does a player have to be before they get the ban hammer? Like is there some kind of scale that you can go off of, or how does this work?
There's a master smeller at each Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. They handle that, and they do a really good job. I think that their judgments are pretty good.
That's how you think it happens. They got a designated master.
They also smell people who smell better. They put them up higher in the tournament bracket. Like if you smell really good, then you get higher up. The worse you smell, you go further down to the point where you're actually kicked out of the tournament if you smell shitty enough.
Yeah. Well, it's based heavily on the odor awareness scale, which all the officials are very, very intimate with. Obviously, to work these events.
Gotcha.
Like Ben said, you can kind of get promoted up tiers and things like that.
Could you, I wonder if you.
I'd be at the top tier, of course.
I wonder if you could win a tournament. I wonder if you could win a tournament just based on just having good hygiene.
On good hygiene?
Yeah, if you could just win a tournament, everybody else just gets banned out.
Well, everybody knows that, especially in card games, and Yu-Gi-Oh is no exception, that you got to use anything to your advantage.
Yeah, that's true.
If you can leverage a good or bad smell in a duel, go for it. I don't agree with this ruling.
Yeah.
That you can get thrown out.
I think that you should here's what happens with these real stinky, smelly players. They distract their enemies. They're not thinking straight. They're not thinking about combos they could do and et cetera, et cetera. But there is a benefit to smelling good as well. You charm your enemies. And they go, oh, I really like this person. I don't know if I want to beat them. They smell so fucking good. Let's just be done with it.
Yeah, it seems like there's room for like an Axe or Old Spice sponsorship here or something.
Or like Pennzoil or something. You like dip your shit and like motor oil.
Sorry, Dave, what were you gonna say?
It's like, I don't know. It just seems like stench could be subjective. Like some people might think it stinks really bad, and other people might not. So like, how do you?
Yeah, it'll be weird to see when this like actually starts to like actually hit. And
if you
like people actually do get banned. I don't know like if it's actually been like put into practice yet. So that'll be interesting to see like if they actually use it, or if this is more like a loose guideline to say like, hey idiots, like try taking a shower a week before you come in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to be serious, if this is, I did read the article, but to be serious,
it was pretty brief.
It's super
short. What they're saying basically is like, don't come if you smell. They probably won't even ban them or kick them out. They're probably just like prompting people, hey, put some deodorant on, right? Or make sure you shower before you come, or you're not wearing your poopy underwear or whatever.
All right.
Was this ever an issue like in the Yu-Gi-Oh world, like during the anime and stuff like that?
Yeah, Yugi's grandpa always used to smell.
Yugi's grandpa stunk.
Why would you even ask that?
All right.
We gotta get out of here.
I don't know.
I think we might have to. We might have to wrap it up. Thank you very much for getting on today, guys. Like I said before, sorry for the 2-week delay.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to be back. And also thank you very, very much for listening and dealing with some of these stupid stories. Check us out on YouTube mainly, but we're also on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and we're also all on Twitter. So thank you very much, and hopefully you'll join us next week.